Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to learn about arrays. So in Python, if you have worked with Python, then are also referred to as list. Now array is a sequence of value, and these values can be of any type. So let us do first the heading, which is the custom of our channel. Cool. Now array is a sequence of values, as I said earlier, and these values in array are called like elements sometimes. So if you want to imagine arrays, or in Python like which is referred to as list, then you can imagine this as a box. As in my terminology, let me just open the. So if you think, okay, 1 second, we can also draw straight lines. Yeah. So now if I want to see this as a box, now what you are trying to do is that a vertical box, you are trying to insert one element after another element. Now first of all, let's say I inserted character 1. Now I can insert another element, like I'm pushing the I'm inserting one by one data here. Okay, so now I can insert another element, which is 2. And afterwards I want to insert, for example, instead of numbers, I want to insert the character, like name, like wins. So this is how arrays are like, and this is referred to as element 1, like it is at index position 1. So every element has, so this 1, 2 and wins are elements, and then this box is totally an array. Okay, now so these are in elements. So this is an element, this is an element, and this is an element, whereas this itself is an array. So and this is an element. Now this has, every element has an index position, which is, for example, 1 here, 2, 3. So in Julia it starts with 1. If you have gone through, like if you have worked with any other programming languages earlier, then you might have seen like JavaScript, Python, then it should be starting with 0. So this is how arrays are. So let us first create our first array. So I'll go here, and for example, I'll create arrays for numbers. And I can do it as 10, 20, 30 and 40. So this is an array. So if I print the type of numbers, so if you see here, it is in vector and int 64. So in arrays there is also one more thing, like we need to understand vectors and n-dimensional arrays or matrices. So if an element is a single dimension, then they are referred to as vectors. If they are multidimensional, then they are referred to as matrices. And other than that, all are referred to as arrays type. So these are two defined arrays. So if you see this vector and alias of array, so don't get confused. So it's an array type where the dimension is 1. Now I can create another array, like for example, with the names. For example, I want to register the students names. So here is the students, and I can do, like for example, Rude, Rudy, Jamie, and then Sammy, and then Kevin, So this is a student array. Now if we want to print array, so just we can print do println students. Or if you want to print another array, I will just substitute here to numbers. Now another thing we would like to also see that arrays can be of multiple size. So I will do this. This is mixed bag array where it is spam. So this can be like, for example, if you're working with any of the programming language or like any of the project where you want to record the errors or something like that, you want to have everything like which is causing an issue. I'm just giving an example. There can be multiple examples, or like here instead of this I can have character, and then I can also have number, and then string, character, boolean. So if you see, this is a mixed bag type of array. Now if I try to see like this type of mixed bag array, so here you can see it is any. So as soon as we change, so here if you are able to see student, and like let us print students also, type of students. If you see, its vector is string, and here the type is int64 because we had numbers here. So it is automatically determining like what kind of. So if you have a similar kind of element, then Julia will be able to determine like what kind of uh, in here also if you see it is showing string in Pluto. So this is good one. So int64, and it is able to determine like what kind of and elements it holds. Like they are of any single type of element, then it will be a vector string or vector numbers. Now if it is like, for example, here we have mixed everything, then it is vector uh, any. So here the list of any. So let us do one more thing. Let us have characters or like boolean. So let's do array boolean. So we are trying to record the for example answers of our survey, and where users have answered in true or false. So true, false, true, false, and I'll name this as survey output. Now if you see here, this type will be bool, and we can determine from here itself, but if we want we can just do type of survey output. So it is vector bool. So we have gone this. Now it's there are other ways to also define array. For example, we can define an empty array. So if we want to define empty array, then the way to go is like just define here empty. I'm just doing here none. Now if I try to print type of empty, so it is also any because nothing exists in this, and then we can insert the elements. Now there are multiple examples. Also we can also create n dimension array. For example, if we want to create a matrix, so I am creating a matrix here. So if you want to create some matrix, then the convention is to use the elements and then use semicolon to determine the next row. To so this is next row, and if you see, this is a 3 into 3 matrix, and if I put type of A, so it is matrix in 64. It is also an array, like alias of an array. So this is how it is. Uh, we can define the arrays. Now we can also say that like one thing we have to do is that arrays are mutable. Now what, so it is arrays are mutable. Now let's see how we can mutate the array. For example, I have a list of elements which are animals, and this is tiger, lion, theta, then BA. Now we see the type of animals is vector string. So I can update the animals. For example, these are, I would say instead of this are in our zoo animals. Now, as expected, this will fail. We have to update the variable. Now, what I will do, for example, tigers have become like, for example, we want to access the array first. So we can say animals or zoo animals 1. So this is how we can access the elements of an array or zoo animals. So it starts from 1, 2, 3, and 4 as we have discussed. So this element is 1, this element is 2, 3, and this is 4. So this is how it is. Now, for example, I want to access the fox. Let's see if fox exists or not. Or like fox doesn't exist. Now what has become, cheetahs has become extinct. Now we have to replace this cheetah with fox. So what we can do, third element, let's print the first third element, it is cheetah. It has become extinct. Now I will go here and update it as fox. So if we see here now, for zoo animals, this tiger, lion, fox, and bear. So we are able to mutate the arrays. Now we can also check. So last time as I spoke, we can also check like if animal exists or not. Like, or for example, let us take any other examples. Like for example, we are owning a flowers shop, and I have all the flowers on our system ready. So rose, jasmine, tulip, and then lotus, and then mogra. So if you like, for example, I want to check if hibiscus rose is available in our stock or not. So what I can do, rose, and this is how we have to use in Julia. We can use in also, but I think this is better. So I can just use flowers. If you say, this will also check, and we can use symbols as well. So Julia is very good at Unicode, and we can update, we can write the code in Unicode as well. So this is also true. So this is in symbol, and we can do, like for example, if I want to check if lotus, okay, lotus is available, sunflower is available or not. So if I do sunflower in flowers, if you see, it is false because it doesn't exist. Now how to traverse an array, like how we want to traverse in an array. For example, for we, if we want to traverse in an array, it's simple. We have to use for loop, and for flower in flowers, let's print flower. Now if you see, it has traversed to each element: rose, magnolia, jasmine, tulip, lotus, and mogra. Rose, jasmine, tulip, lotus, and mogra, and it has printed each. So how it traverses is that when we are doing for flower in flowers, it is traversing each index by index. So if I have to say, when we are using for loop, so what it is going to do is that it will first go to this element, and this becomes the flower variable. Okay, so after it has printed the flower, then it will come to jasmine, which has become the flower variables, and so on. So this is how, like, we can traverse in an array. Okay, Now we can also, for example, perform some operations like inside the arrays itself. So there is another method which is each index. So let's see now. We have the marks obtained by student. So in 5 subjects, which is 85, 90, 78, 89, and 100. Now this marks are obtained not out of 100 but out of 120. So what I will do for mark, I'll use the variable sub for subject mark in mark. So each subject's mark, like for example 85. Now we can do in also, or we can use each index as well. So let's use each index. So what happens with each index is that each index gives us the index of the element. So I think it would be better to use I as well. So let's first print subject mark, what it means. So it is printing the index. So let's move this to I. I think I is better. So whenever we are trying to do index, I think it is I is better. Okay, now what we have to do is that we have to update the percentage, convert marks into percentage. Either we can include a new array or we can update in the same array. So I will, let's use the new array. So I'll do percentage equals to an empty array. Now what we will do here, percentage I. So every time marks will iterate over first element, then it means 85, one element. So we'll also update at the same location, and equals to what we can do, round. Let's first calculate the percentage one by one. So we will calculate by marks I. So if we are accessing marks I, it means that we are getting element value. Now we'll percentage formula is into 100, and then we'll divide by 120. So how we can do? We can just use, we can use 100 divided by 120 as well, but yeah, let's do it in the best way. Now this is how it is. Okay, now we can also do this way. So this is good. So let's run this code. What it is saying, attempt to access zero element at index I, index 1. Okay, so here the issue is, so let me try to change this to marks first. Zero element vector. So we are trying to access, it is saying marks is a zero element vector. Don't know why. So let's try to do this first. I'll do marks I, and let me just try to make this one up. Let's see what happens. So it is saying int 64 because it cannot contain a 64 in int. So I'll do just, I'll convert this to float. First float. Or let me just round. Let me see if round works or not. Round function. Okay, it worked. Now let's see what is the value of marks. So it has calculated the percentage appropriately, but we are not able to see like why we were not able to update the percentage, which we can see later. So in Python usually it works like we just need to update it accordingly. Here I'm not able to see. So yeah, let's see. I'll update on this. Now we can also, like, when we traverse over in empty array, so what happens is that it will not be printed because it will not iterate. So yeah, this is not printing. Now before this, like, we can also see the array slices um and other functions of array. Let's go through. So yeah, so we left, like, I was looking at the problem, like what happens like if you want to insert a particular element only. So in Julia we have to use the insert function, the percentage problem which we were getting an error. So insert, and then we have to use the our array, and then the index and the element to insert. So insert function, if you see, I have, so we have solved the problem here, like, which is of percentage, like how to insert an element. Now here we are getting the percentage data. So if you want to do, in this case, I'd say, like, insert function is like this: insert, and then array, array to insert, then index at which to insert, and then element to insert. And if you remember, like, this is bank function. So bank functions in Julia, like, if there is a bank, then it means that it will modify the array. So here if we see the example, I like once again do this. So percentage as, um, if you see, percentage is none here, and like if I enter, now this will append, and this will become this percentage value. So this is how we have to solve this problem of inserting the element in the new array at particular given position. So there is push function as well, which we will try to see next chapter, or like in some time. So first we'll go with slices. So let's go for slices in array. So for example, slices are simple, like, now if I see here, x equals to 1 comma 2 comma 3, and then I'm just using the duplicates elements as well. So if you want to do a slice, for example, I can use 1 to this colon, so it will print 1 to 2. So it will print 1 and 2. So from 1 and 2, so first element and the second element. If I use x of 1 to 3, then it will print 1 2 3. And if I print 2 to 3 to 3, then it will print only third element, so which is same as accessing. So if I do 4 to 3, then this will not print anything because it doesn't go to reverse. But yeah, there is one thing, like, we can use minus as well. So we go through which letter. So one thing it doesn't work, I am seeing here, is that, like in Python, we can use the this and then colon, then it will print the rest of the element which is not there. So that is one thing. Now I can also do here 2 to 7. Does it works? Yeah, it works. But if we have out of range index, for example 11, then it will not work. It will say attempt to access the eighth element, and it throws an error because total elements are how much here? 1 2 3. We can also do use length function to calculate the total element, which is length of x, which is 8. So out of, after 8 it will not print. So we maximum element we can access is 8. Yeah, if you see. So this is how slices are. Yeah, other than this, what we can also do is that we can also use first and last element. So if we try to see first, I think it is end. So end will do, and then it is begin. Let me see. Yeah, so begin and end is are there. So if we see begin, or gives us the first element, and end gives us the last element. So this is how we can access this elements in arrays as well. So after this, let's go to the arrays function. Now here if we see, so let me just add the names here. I'll just copy here. This is from, so we have the names, and then like we can add so another name, like for example if we want to push an element into the array, then we can push using arrays. And then for example I'll want to add John Cena in this. So if you see, John Cena is inserted here in the list of names. So this is how the push function works. Then we have append function. So let's see, append is used to insert more than one element, or if we want to insert an array. So I can do like triple H and then set Rollins. So this will also insert. If you see, this has inserted this one, and we are using bank function, so it is directly appending this one. Now then there is another, like, which is sort function, which is which sorts, like for example here it is caps case, then it is sorting caps case first and then lowercase later. So you can see, so caps case is given the preference, and then after that, after caps case, then as per the alphabetical order. So sort function is very handy if we want to sort anything. Now this but doesn't changes our original function. So if you see, names are still in this order. So what we have to do is that to use the, we'll have to use the bank, then only it will save. So I am just inserting it to the new variable so we can have the examples ready. So if you see, now it has sorted and it has used bank, but we haven't like changed our original function. So if we want to change it, so let's do it, sort and name. So if you see here, sort function worked but names didn't change. If we still print the names in our Pluto term in Julia REPL, then it is not. Okay, so we use sort here, and then hence this is the reason it got changed. So let me just copy what happens if we do, if you want to sort the element but keep it as it is. So I'll just do like this. So it is saying, Pluto is saying another cell is disabled because we are using the same variable, which is okay. So now what I will do, I'll do sort names, but if we see here, names is still the same. Now if you want to save the variable, yeah, if you want to save the variable, so okay, let us use another variable here. I'm seeing some issue. So yeah, we have used WWE names. Now we can do sort WWE names. And if we see, it is sorted here, but if you print WWE names, then it is in the same order. So it doesn't change the element. So if you want to save this, we can just save it in new variable, which will be like this. So T2 is sorted. So I print again this one, it will not, it is still the same. If I print T2, we have the sorted one. But if you want to sort the original array as well, you can just use sort and then bang and then names. So it, okay, WWE names. Sometimes like reusing variable, not reusing variable also creates a lot of pain for me in Pluto, but it is okay. So now we have sorted with the bang. Now if we see our variable, yeah, so it is sorted like permanently. The original in, there is a modification in original array as well. Now we can also have, for example, I can use another array which is t equals to, I'll just do, if you see here, we have multiple elements like a is twice b star. Now if you want to get only unique elements, so there is a unique function, so we'll use the unique function, and if we do unique t, then we'll get the unique variables only. But since we haven't used bang, so it will not modify the original. So what we'll do, we'll just if we can use bang and it will permanently modify it. There is another length we have already gone through, like length function. So length names, if you see here, it is not length names, it is length t. So length t is 10. We can also calculate the size of t, which is 10. And then yeah, then there is first function. So this is what I was trying to find out. So first function gives the first element, and last function gives the last element of an array. So this becomes very handy, like if you want to see like how much, so you don't need to do length minus 1. So if you also want to get the last element, you can do t of, and this is very common practice. So for example, t of length of t, and then it will give you the last element. But this is, I think, very handy, this function. So Julia gives us ability to get the first and last element. So if you want to get the second last element, then you might have to do this way. But instead of that, it is better to use, I think, end minus 1, and then you get this directly. Now there is reverse function. We can also reverse an array. So if you see, I have reversed this. If you use bang, then it will permanently reverse it. So you have to see like, and then there is copy function. So like whenever we are copying an array, so this becomes very important. Like whenever we are copying an array, then it should be like deep copy. So if you are modifying the variable in one array to another, then there becomes an aliasing issue. So we can go through this. Let me show you first. So let's take another example, which is var1 equals to 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay, now what we are doing var2 equals to var1. Okay, so we are copying in a new variable. Okay, this is var1. So we have copied. Now what we can do, first let's check if it is same or not. var1 equals to var2. It is true. Okay, because but if we do triple equals to, this is also true because its objects are same. But now what we will do, we will just modify var2 of 3. We are changing the elements in var2, so 4. Yeah, so this will become 4. Okay, let's see. So in var2, we are only changing in var2. So what we have done, we have changed in var2. Let's see, var2. Let's print var1. So if you see, we change in var2 as well, and it change in var1 too. So this is not the right way to copy any variable or any object in Julia or in Python as well, if you have gone through. So what we can do in this case is that we can, what we can do in this case, we can use the copy function. So instead of this one, so var2, var2 equals to copy var1. We'll do it this way. And then if you see, then these two objects become different. So here triple equals to becomes false, but these are same, this contains variable, but now they are not same objects. Earlier they were same objects. It means that they were pointing to same variable. If I have to show in the like pictorial representation, so I can show, for example, when we are using equal to and when we are using copy. So let us just enter here equal to, and here I can enter copy function. So what happens is that when we are using equal to, so in var1, use somewhere else. So when we are using equal to in var1, and we are copying, so it directly creates these two variables become attached. So it becomes var2. Now these two objects are same. So what is happening here is that these two objects are deeply linked. So they are same objects. They are not different objects. So in this case, like our array, which is there. So for example, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma our object. This same object is pointing to both var1 and var2. But when we are using copy, so in copy, what happens is that, so here, for example, when we are using copy, then this var1 and var2, they both are different objects. So this is var1 and var2, and when we are doing copy, so this is a new, so we copy it. So for example, var1 contains this variable, but when var2 is copied, it has its own variable. So it becomes, now it becomes this way. So it is not referring to this variable. So, and that's how like these two objects become different. So we need to understand that. Now let's go to other function, which is append function. So I can have append function, which is like, for example, I have var1, and if I want to append another variable, like for example, I have var3 equals to 5 6 7. Now I can use append function, append, and with the, like, we have to use bang because we want to modify. So we will use the original array which we want to update, and then the array which we want to insert. So if you see here, our var1 is modified, so, and var2, var3 which was there, so it is as same. So we can use append function to append the arrays directly. Then there is empty function. So in empty can determine like if empty exists or not. So if I do var3, it is not an empty array. So method objects, so this is curious. Okay, I use square bracket. I'm using empty function only. Yeah. So if, for example, I can directly empty an array. So if I want to empty like var3, so if I do empty var3, it work. So I think this is not working in this version because I had earlier tried and this has worked. So let me try to see what it is. No, this doesn't work. So, but yeah, empty function exists. So if I do empty, then var3. Yeah, so with the bang it works. So, but without bang it is not working. There is one change. So var3 has become empty. Earlier, like we inserted var3, this was there, but right now with the help of empty function, we can completely empty the contents of or remove the elements of the array. So we'd also have function like is empty. So we can check if the array is empty or not. So if you see this is true, but if I try to do is empty var1, then it is false. Then also, like for example, we can see is sorted function. So let's have like var3 equals to, so we already have var3. So var3 equals to, I will not, var4 equals to 1 2 3 4, and var1, let's print var1. which is this one. So let's see if it is sorted or not. So what we'll do, we will insert new element at var 8, how much, 19. Okay, let me just change the element. So we'll have to use push function. So I'll do 7, 8. Okay, now var1, let's see what is the value of var1 and var3. So var1 is, if you see, it is okay, var4 we are using. var1, if you see 1, 2, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's see, it's sorted for var1, which is false. If I use it for var4, then this is true. This is how it works in this functions. And then like we have another functions which is like mathematical functions. So for example, one thing we can have, for example, if we see we had ww names, and now I can do, we can also find the element which is with find all function, find all, and then we can do is equal function, and let's see, we want to find rock, and then from wwe names array. So it will be able to find the fourth element. So the rock exists as the fourth element for this string. And then let's go with mathematical functions. So let's create a new array which is nums. I think nums we had already declared. So we haven't declared nums. So now what I can do is that I can find minimum for nums. Let's find min function. So which will give us the minimum object and that its index as well. So what I can do is find max, another function for an array. It will give us the element which is maximum element and the index of an array in the form of tuple. So we haven't gone through tuple, but we'll go through tuple in next chapter. Then page sorted, we have already gone through it. So pop is the function which pops the array. If I do pop nums, it doesn't work. So we have to use the blank. So if you see it, it will remove the last element. So if I do, and also return the element. So if I do, so the last element is popped. So let me just pop it once again. So it has popped 30 now. And if we see, this is reduced to 20. And we can also have, for example, nums. I don't know if I will be able, I will do push function and nums and then 30. Let me see if it works. Yeah. Then let me push 40. Then let me push 50. Okay, so we have pushed the elements. So if we do nums now, it should have 250. No, it has 150 only. So I can do pop first. So pop first, like if we want to pop the first element first, and then just use the array. Yeah, so it will pop the 10th and then it will remove the 10th element. So now if we print nums, yeah, it is 20.